WWE's relaunch of ECW in the 2000s fell flat of hopes and expectations. In this series, we've taken the reins and have led this brand into a new direction, one where Paul Heyman never left, RVD and Sabu never got busted, and many other scenarios that would have benefited the Extreme brand. 2006 and 2007 have held some big surprises already. What's in store for 2008?
Kicking off the first ECW episode of the new year, the debut of Kofi Kingston is made, beginning his career with a victory over Gangrel. In the next match, the Boogeyman is back in ECW action to take on Shelton Benjamin. The Gold Standard is accompanied by Elijah Burke, and after a display of his premier athleticism, is able to secure the victory here. Bobby Lashley cuts a backstage promo, stating that he is not going to be overlooked, vowing to win the Royal Rumble. In the main event, ECW champion Raven takes on Hardcore Holly in an Extreme Rules match. Raven had just emerged victorious from a grueling title defense to close out the year prior, and wasted no time to face his next obstacle. This was a hard-hitting, physical battle, and the champion seemed to be at peak performance. However, Hardcore Holly would come away with a surprising victory over the champion after Big Daddy V made his presence felt, sending a message to his Royal Rumble opponent. Over on SmackDown, Chavo Guerrero comes out on top in a fatal four-way between he, MVP, Matt Hardy, and Finlay to become the #1 contender for CM Punk's United States Championship. On the next episode of ECW, Tag Team Champions Rob Van Dam and Kid Cash are set for non-title competition against the New Brood. Kevin Thorne did his best to give his team the best chance of victory, but the champs would come out on top here. In the next matchup, Kofi Kingston continues to impress as he picks up another victory, this time over Stevie Richards, who is making his return after a lengthy hiatus. Test and Paul Heyman are seen speaking backstage, where Test is once again threatening Paul Heyman's well-being if Heyman doesn't place Test in a favorable position on the card. A championship match is made for the next week between Test and Marcus Corvon. Big Daddy V vs Rhino will headline the evening. As Big Daddy V inches closer to his title shot at the next pay-per-view, he looks to make a statement with not just a victory, but by inflicting extra damage after the match on the champion's ally. On the following Friday night, CM Punk and Kane team up to take on World Heavyweight Champion Edge alongside Chavo Guerrero in a bout that would prepare Chavito and Punk for their upcoming title match. This was a highly entertaining encounter that clashed champions against contenders. Both teams were aiming to build momentum, but in the end, it would be the world champion scoring a pinfall over the US champion thanks to a spear. The final ECW before the Royal Rumble opens to the scene of Raven annihilating Matt Striker backstage in an effort to send a message to Big Daddy V. Bobby Lashley returns to in-ring action by destroying Gangrel in singles competition. The former champion sent a clear message that he intends on re-establishing his dominance. Shelton Benjamin, accompanied by Elijah Burke, is set to go one-on-one with Sabu. These guys have been entwined with one another for the past month, and Shelton Benjamin is able to continue to ride the momentum he's been building as he secures another big victory in a highly competitive matchup. Marcus Corvon is set to defend his Hardcore Championship against Test. Test has been strong-arming GM Paul Heyman into title opportunities, and that continues here. These two would go on to put on a brutal match. Marcus Corvon's championship was at serious risk here, though the champion once again proves resilient and is able to stand tall after a successful title defense. In the main event of the evening, ECW is hosting a United States Championship match featuring Chavo Guerrero challenging CM Punk in an encounter with no disqualifications. This was a highly competitive match, with momentum changing hands throughout. While weapons were permitted, the two surprisingly left weapons out of the equation. CM Punk seemed to have control of the match until the newly packaged Major Brothers interfered and cost CM Punk the match, taking advantage of the no DQ stipulation, crowning Chavo as the new United States Champion. The Royal Rumble has once again come around, and ECW will be hosting an Extreme Rules match as Raven defends his championship against Big Daddy V, who has been destroying everything in his path during his ascension. Raven has been a fearless champion, and made it clear early on in this matchup that he wasn't going to back down. However, the champ may be in over his head, as this is literally the biggest challenge he has faced since making his return to ECW last year. While the threat posed by the challenger seemed insurmountable, Raven did not allow Big Daddy V to completely take over this match, and the champion ensured that he gave everything he had to bring down his colossal challenger. Big Daddy V sent Raven through a table, marking what seemed to be the end of Raven's title reign, until Raven continued to fight back, eventually hitting an even flow DDT on Matt Striker to keep the manager at bay. It wouldn't take much longer before Big Daddy V took a DDT of his own, and Raven would defy the odds, marking an incredibly improbable championship defense. To open up the next episode of ECW, Test is caught with Paul Heyman, once again making threats in order to receive a favorable push. Heyman grants Test what Heyman calls a huge opportunity next week. Kofi Kingston is looking to continue his hot streak here on ECW as he is set to go one-on-one with Mike Knox. The big man would put up a good fight, but Kofi would continue to roll as his win-loss record remained unblemished. Marcus Corvan is confronted by Elijah Burke and Shelton Benjamin backstage. The two mock the hardcore champion, teasing his reign will soon come to an end. We've got a huge 6-man tag team match up next. New United States champion Chavo Guerrero alongside La Familia lackeys, the Major Brothers, will butt heads against CM Punk and WWE Tag Team Champions RVD and Kid Cash. An exciting match was in store, as both teams displayed their abilities and the momentum carried would be exchanged throughout the match. Rob Van Dam would hit a big split-legged moonsault, and CM Punk was looking to gain some revenge on the man who took his US Championship, though Chavo would surprisingly turn things around, connecting with the Three Amigos and a 5-star frog splash, which would bring home the victory for the new champion. The main event of the evening has got the ECW champion engaged in tag team action against a couple of contenders. Raven and Rhino team up to take on Bobby Lashley and Snitsky, and it's clear there's still unresolved issues between Snitsky and Lashley. Their inability would be their downfall, as a few costly misfires would turn the match upside down. Bobby and Snitsky both inadvertently struck their partner, allowing Rhino to capitalize with a huge gore to end the match. While Rhino and Raven celebrated their victory, Bobby Lashley and Snitsky clearly have issues with one another. As the talent exchange continues with SmackDown, Shelton Benjamin and Elijah Burke make the trip over to represent ECW to take on Finlay in singles competition. The confidence of Benjamin and Burke is beaming as the Gold Standard picks up a convincing victory, kicking off ECW with Test entering Paul Heyman's supposed huge opportunity, though Test was less than thrilled to find out he's actually going one-on-one with the Great Khali. Test was faced with a colossal challenge, and was able to get away after hitting Khali with a chair, prematurely ending the match. Elijah Burke has a match with hardcore champion Marcus Corvan with the title on the line. Elijah Burke has been white hot as of late, working alongside Shelton Benjamin, but Marcus Corvan has been building a great deal of momentum on his own. It was tightly contested, and both of these men would put the other through some serious punishment, though in the end, Marcus Corvan would ultimately retain his championship. To headline the night, another brutal battle is in store as Snitsky and Bobby Lashley go toe-to-toe in a Falls Count Anywhere matchup to settle the grudge they've got against one another. In addition, the winner of this match will challenge for the ECW Championship come No Way Out. This was a highly physical clash of behemoths that featured two men who were willing to give it everything they had. The two took their differences to a brutal level of destruction and chaos, finding their way in and around the ring before the match would finally end after Bobby Lashley hit Snitsky with a devastating spear near the entrance ramp. Rob Van Dam and Kid Cash travel over to SmackDown to defend their WWE Tag Team titles against the Major Brothers. An entertaining match ensued as these two teams clashed. The Major Brothers have undergone not only a change in appearance, but attitude as well. RVD and Kid Cash were building momentum until the unexpected arrival of the Dudleys caused a distraction, one that would prove costly to the champions. Thanks to the pandemonium and distraction, the Major Brothers would be able to take advantage and capture the tag titles for themselves. This reunion of former ECW stars continued to sour, as the Dudleys laid into the former champions, brutally attacking them and leaving them beaten and battered. The next episode of ECW starts with extreme action between Rhino and Sandman. These two ECW originals brutalized one another in an effort to improve their standing on the card, though only one could emerge victorious, and that man would be Rhino, following a powerful gore. Matt Striker makes his return to weekly television since suffering a nasty, though likely justified beating at the hands of Raven, and he is furious with Big Daddy V for not only allowing that level of damage to be done to him, but failing to capture the ECW title at the Royal Rumble as well. Shelton Benjamin and Stevie Richards compete in the next match. Both of these guys are aiming to prove their worth in the title scene, and Shelton Benjamin's spotless record will certainly help him get noticed, as he picks up another victory here. After the match, Shelton Benjamin issues a warning to Marcus Corvan, stating that his title will soon belong to Benjamin. This would receive a strange look from Elijah Burke, despite the effort to hide it from his partner. RVD comes to the ring, demanding an explanation from the Dudleys. The Dudley boys make their way to the ring, and behind them, Paul Heyman. The ECW general manager reveals the Dudleys as the key to his latest initiative to evolve his brand. RVD expresses his disgust with Heyman, to which Heyman heeds RVD to be grateful, as he is still able to walk, which is more than what Kid Cash can say. The ECW champion has got his hands full in the main event tonight, as Raven has got to go one-on-one with the giant known as the Great Khali in a tables match. GM Paul Heyman put this match together in efforts to please Bobby Lashley by weakening his No Way Out opponent. The pay-per-view is in a matter of days, but the champion has got to focus on the monster in front of him if he intends on walking into No Way Out in one piece. Miraculously, Raven would send Khali through a table, securing the victory and setting his sights on No Way Out. deserved. And here we are at No Way Out, where Bobby Lashley will challenge Raven with the ECW title on the line. This is the first time these two have had the opportunity to go one-on-one since Raven took the title from Lashley at Survivor Series last year, and these bitter rivals are intent on beating down their opposition in order to establish who the real top dog in ECW is. The major contrast in styles between the rugged and aggressive Raven and the incomparable athleticism and power from Bobby Lashley is on full display, and this made for an epic contest. Raven's offense was relentless, and he never gave Bobby Lashley a moment to breathe, and the challenger was certainly not used to such a scenario where he wasn't in control. Bobby Lashley would then turn the tide of the match after a huge superplex sent Raven through a table, followed by a thunderous spear. However, Lashley seemed intent on making a statement versus just winning the match. Raven would reverse another attempt at a Dominator and ultimately put Lashley down with an even flow DDT, although the match didn't end there as the will of these two top competitors was too great to allow them to quit now. Raven would connect with another even flow DDT, but he needed to get Lashley into the ring to win the match. The battle continued until eventually Raven would put an exclamation mark on this encounter with a huge elbow drop through the announce table, resulting in Raven dragging Lashley into the ring and securing his ECW championship in a gutsy showing and a monumental victory. We're back on ECW, and Kofi Kingston is in action to open up the night as he is looking to continue his win streak against Hardcore Holly. Kofi Kingston has been an exciting addition to the ECW roster, however his exuberance naturally rubs Hardcore Holly the wrong way. Kingston was seemingly on his way to another victory until Holly would end the match prematurely by getting himself disqualified after using a weapon. Paul Heyman makes his way to the ring, accompanied by the Dudley Boys. The GM reintroduces the ECW originals as the enforcers ECW has needed all this time. The Dudley Boys highlight how ECW veterans have been chasing WWE accolades rather than enhancing ECW. ECW tag team titles are then revealed and promptly awarded to the Dudley Boys. Rob Van Dam would interrupt Heyman, demanding a match with his new enforcers, in which Heyman would oblige and inform him that he will need to find two partners to fight alongside him. In the next match, Hardcore Champion Marcus Corvan is paired with Stevie Richards to go 2-on-2 with Elijah Burke and Shelton Benjamin. The Hardcore Champion continues his display of raw power, bulldozing the challengers on his way to an impressive performance. However, the cunning of Elijah Burke and natural athleticism of Shelton Benjamin give them the advantage to secure the victory here after pinning Stevie Richards. The Dudley Boy Trio is going to headline the night by competing against RVD, Rhino, and ECW champion Raven. Thanks to the backing of Paul Heyman, the Dudley Boys have made an instant impact on the modern-day ECW, with their sights seemingly set on ECW original Rob Van Dam. The enlistment of Rhino and the face of the brand has leveled the playing field, and these 6 superstars put on a highly exciting match that would see RVD taken down for the 3 count. After the match, the ECW champion was blindsided when his friend betrayed him, as Rhino took out Raven, leaving the crowd speechless as the show came to an end. The next episode of ECW opens up with Bobby Lashley verbally attacking the ECW brand as well as the fans, claiming he has been screwed and is the only one who deserves to be at the top. CM Punk interrupts this tangent, reminding Lashley that there is a Money in the Bank qualifier for ECW, and lays the challenge to see who truly deserves to go to WrestleMania. To kick off the in-ring action, Shelton Benjamin is receiving an opportunity to challenge Marcus Corvan for the Hardcore Championship. The champion has had Shelton Benjamin and Elijah Burke breathing down his neck for weeks, and is once again challenged with a title defense in an Extreme Rules match. These two athletic anomalies put on a phenomenal match for the fans that featured athletic feats as well as cringing shots with weapons. As Benjamin was looking to wrap things up, Elijah Burke got in his way, causing a distraction from the ringside area that ultimately allowed Corvan to regain composure and end the match in victory with a powerful pounce. In the next match, Hardcore Holly is once again in action competing against another young superstar, this time by the name of Colin Delaney. The veteran takes control of the match, in which he never relinquishes. Holly brutalizes the young talent on his way to another victory. After the match, Hardcore Holly expresses his disgust with the crop of new superstars coming through the ranks, believing this justifies his attack on Kofi Kingston last week. The next segment has got the ECW champion, Raven, coming to the ring to discuss Rhino's actions last week. Raven expresses the betrayal from who he thought was his best friend, though it's clear Heyman's toxic vision has infected Rhino's perspective. However, Raven still offers to reconcile next week. The main event features 2 huge names on this ECW brand, competing for the chance to represent ECW in the Money in the Bank ladder match at WrestleMania. Bobby Lashley and CM Punk lock horns, knowing well what's at stake, a shot to compete at the grandest stage of them all. 2008 has not gone the way either of these two have planned so far, but a Money in the Bank victory could do wonders for the rest of the year. Another exciting match came about from these two, and the fans were hooked, waiting to see what happened next. CM Punk was gaining momentum, but took a spear out of nowhere that would keep him down, allowing Bobby Lashley to collect the win while punching his ticket to WrestleMania. We are less than 2 weeks away from WrestleMania, and the first match of the night consists of Test taking on the destructive team known as the Dudley Boys. Test intended on using weapons to fend off Heyman's goons, but the numbers would prove too powerful, and the trio would take out Heyman's former muscle. Shelton Benjamin confronts Elijah Burke in the back, looking for answers for what happened last week. Elijah Burke claims his innocence, and would even request Shelton Benjamin to watch his back in a championship rematch against Marcus Corvon later tonight, to which Benjamin would oblige. Kofi Kingston is back in action and is set to compete against Mike Knox. Knox is an imposing figure, but Kingston secures the victory here. After the match, Kofi challenges Hardcore Holly to an Extreme Rules match, eager to prove his grit. The final match of the night has got Elijah Burke once again challenging Marcus Corvon for the Hardcore title. Corvon continues to face steep and constant challenges as champion since he's on the wrong side of the general manager, making for an unpredictable situation. Elijah Burke was determined to unseat the champion, however Shelton Benjamin got even from Elijah Burke's antics last week and struck him down, marking an end to this alliance, though the match was not finished, at least until Marcus Corvon would take a flustered Elijah Burke down with a pounce, once again retaining his championship. The final segment of the night features Raven and Rhino coming face to face. Rhino states he's no longer going to be a sidekick, blaming Raven for his shortcomings. Raven used his unique charisma to shift Rhino's demeanor, admitting the fault in his action but claiming his own justifications, leaving the challenger clearly conflicted. Raven would embrace Rhino, showing forgiveness until he hit an even flow DDT, sending the message their friendship is over. In the opening segment of the next ECW episode, Bobby Lashley, presenting a different demeanor from before, expresses his intentions to win the Money in the Bank briefcase at WrestleMania and take the WWE by storm, stating how he has outgrown ECW, claiming it's full of losers. The first match of the night has Kevin Thorne back in action against the big ugly bastard Snitsky. This match was incredibly physical, as these two heavy hitters set their sights on one another. After exchanges of powerful offense, Snitsky would ultimately claim the victory here. Shelton Benjamin and Elijah Burke have been found in an intense argument. Things almost get physical before Paul Heyman informs the two that they'll both be challenging Marcus Corvon for the Hardcore Championship at WrestleMania 24, to which Heyman would add he expects at least one of them to take the title from Corvon. Rhino looks to gain some momentum heading into a huge WrestleMania showdown by taking on the Boogeyman. Rhino's aggression was on full display and the strange character couldn't do much to slow the challenger down. Rhino came away with a victory, and a brawl between he and Raven would commence after the match, needing to be separated. The main event of the final ECW before WrestleMania has got Rob Van Dam going one-on-one with Bubba Ray Dudley in an Extreme Rules match. The Dudleys made a huge splash in the modernized ECW at the expense of RVD. The former WWE champion has been adamant on keeping Paul Heyman as frustrated as possible in his efforts to take back full control of his company. RVD's fight was admirable, and these two would actually put on a very entertaining match, though the numbers against him eventually caught up to RVD, allowing Bubba Ray Dudley to secure a huge singles victory. We have made it to WrestleMania 24, the second edition of the Super Show featuring WWECW, and the Extreme brand has 3 matches to represent their style of combat. While this is not the biggest show of the year to the tribe of extremists, this is still the biggest show in all of wrestling. The first of those 3 matches is sure to set a tone as Shelton Benjamin and Elijah Burke will both be challenging Marcus Corvon for the Hardcore Championship in an unpredictable match, full of chaos. The match was fast-paced and full of resentment for the other competitors, as Marcus Corvon has been dealing with these two for quite some time, and now that the relationship between Burke and Benjamin has fallen apart, the volatility of the match has been ramped up even further. Shelton Benjamin continued his trend of a truly amazing physical feat at WrestleMania, and Elijah Burke nearly stole the match, though in the end, Marcus Corvon would hit a thunderous pounce on Elijah Burke, securing the Hardcore Championship once more for the alpha male. Later in the night, Bobby Lashley would go on to win the Money in the Bank briefcase in a hectic ladder match, giving Lashley the opportunity of a lifetime. Rhino challenges Raven for the ECW Championship in what has become an extremely personal contest after the former friend saw their relationship implode after Rhino set his sights on Raven's ECW Championship, aiming to get out of the shadow of the champion and establish his own identity as a major player in today's ECW. While the goal of championship glory is the driving factor for this match, it's obvious there's clear intent to cause as much pain and damage as possible. These two wasted no time to implement weapons into this battle, and Rhino gained the upper hand early. While the champion has shown resilience throughout his reign, constantly fend off opponents much larger than he, there's something different about an opponent with not just size, but a familiarity for the champion as well. It was a war of attrition between these two, as they continuously tried to outdo the other, failing to put their adversary away easily. Both the champion and the challenger were depleted, and the champion seemed to be defeated after Rhino dealt some serious damage. However, Raven refused to waver. The champion would fight back, delivering not just one, but 2 even flow DDTs that would keep Rhino down for the 3 count, allowing Raven to walk out of WrestleMania 24 still ECW champion after a gutsy performance. The first ECW following WrestleMania 24 is set to be a big one, and we're going to start it off with a few fresh faces going head to head. Braden Walker and Ricky Ortiz, bringing forth a new class of ECW extremists, are sure to make old heads of ECW proud. In a physical match, Braden Walker came out on top here. Big Daddy V is back in ECW after a brief hiatus, and looking to continue his dominance. However, he was in for a shock when he was smaller than his opposition, the Great Khali. These two giants traded punishing blows, but this was a stalemate until Big Daddy V decided to strike Khali with a chair out of frustration, ending the match without a definitive winner. The main event of the night features the Dudleys making their first defense of the ECW Tag Team titles against the duo of Rob Van Dam and Sabu in a tables match. The Dudleys have expressed their disgust in the current ECW veterans on the roster that have been busy chasing WWE accolades, as opposed to keeping the spirit of ECW alive. This table match will be controlled chaos in every sense of the term, as these 4, who are very familiar with one another, are going to do whatever it takes to punish the opposing team. Pure destruction and pandemonium took place in this match, though in the end, the Dudley boys would come out on top with their championships secure. The next episode of ECW is kicked off with Hardcore Holly competing against the Boogeyman. Hardcore Holly is looking to unleash some aggression in efforts to send a message to Kofi Kingston, foreshadowing what's to come to the Jamaican sensation. Matt Striker is seen backstage with Big Daddy V, seemingly attempting to calm the big man down to no avail. Shelton Benjamin makes his way to the ring, calling out Elijah Burke for turning his back on the gold standard. Benjamin promises to make Elijah Burke pay in an Extreme Rules match next week. The Dudleys are back in action, this time in singles action as Bubba Ray is set to go one-on-one with the Sandman. This was a brutal clash, reminiscent of the ECW of old, and in the end, the Dudley brothers stood tall in victory. Rhino is back in the main event and looking to prove his WrestleMania loss was a fluke here in this non-title WrestleMania rematch. The ship has sailed on this friendship, and these two deliver another brutal contest, sparing no expense to put the other down. While Rhino reset his sights on the champion, Raven once again came out of this encounter on top. The next episode of ECW opens up with a backstage confrontation between Marcus Corvan and the Dudleys. The Dudleys cite Corvan's refusal to join Heyman's crew last year, warning the hardcore champion that Paul Heyman has not forgotten. The fearless champion then exclaimed they know where to find him if they're looking for a fight. Hardcore Holly and Kofi Kingston share the ring in the first of multiple Extreme Rules matches for the evening. The rugged nature of Hardcore Holly has detested Kingston's enthusiastic presence since his arrival to ECW, and is looking to permanently wipe the smile off the newcomer's face. These two would put together an exciting performance that would have Kofi getting one over on the disgruntled veteran. The next segment features Elijah Burke cutting a promo. Speaking to his former friend Shelton Benjamin, Elijah Burke rejects the notion of a match this evening, stating it will come on his terms. Elijah Burke expressed that he never forgave Benjamin for his actions in late 2006, and the gold standard has had this coming since his return to ECW. Matt Striker is in the ring, speaking to the crowd. Striker reminds the crowd of the power that his client Big Daddy V holds. Feeling words were not enough, Striker had planned a demonstration as new talent Colin Delaney was sent to the ring as a sacrificial lamb. The main event has got the hardcore champion Marcus Corvan once again defending his championship. This time, Devon Dudley is the one looking to take the title. Marcus Corvan held nothing back when bringing the fight to the veteran, and quickly showed why no challengers have been able to knock him off yet. The Dudley brother is resilient, and it showed as he continued to get up after absorbing punishing blows and impactful offense. It was clear Devon wasn't going to be able to take care of business as he thought, resulting in the interference of Bubba Ray. A 3D would seal the fate for the hardcore champion, and Devon would have his hand raised in victory to end the show. More newcomers in action here on ECW. This time, Ricky Ortiz has been given the daunting task to face off against Big Daddy V. This match would go how you'd imagine, but the surprise here would come when the Great Khali would make an appearance, delivering a devastating blow to Ortiz. Cameras have caught up to Hardcore Holly backstage, who is seen brutalizing Kofi Kingston, showing his rage over taking a loss to the enigmatic rookie. ECW champion Raven is set to take on Spike Dudley in the next match, and of course, this one will be held under Extreme Rules. Raven began the match in total control, and would maintain control for most of the contest despite bursts of offense from the former Brother Runt. However, the Dudleys didn't hesitate to take advantage of the stipulation, as this match quickly became a handicap match. Despite the champion putting up a fight, the numbers were too much, and Spike Dudley would come out of this match with a surprising victory. An extremely bitter battle of rivals is set to commence for the main event, as Shelton Benjamin and Elijah Burke have finally got the opportunity to clash with one another. Personal animosity has propelled the creation of this match, pitting two men with a checkered history back into the ring with one another, mano a mano. Elijah Burke has never gotten over losing to Shelton Benjamin at the end of 2006, leaving him stuck on ECW while Shelton Benjamin went on to return to the main roster. Upon Benjamin's return to ECW, Elijah Burke's resentment was rekindled. Despite taking advantage of the backup, a brief alliance was formed which would present the two with title opportunities. The remorseless Elijah Burke and the unwavering Gold Standard would deliver a slobber knocker here, with Shelton Benjamin emerging victorious. The next show begins with Rhino speaking with Paul Heyman, planning their next move. Rhino asks Heyman to give him another title shot, to which Heyman would reject, and informs him of another plan in place that will be revealed later in the evening. The Great Khali is in action against Braden Walker to kick off the in-ring competition. Khali dominated this match, quickly dismantling the rookie. After the match, Stryker and Big Daddy V would make their way to the ring, giving their input to Khali's opponent, much like Khali did last week. However, these two giants have seemingly joined forces as Stryker celebrates, posing a frightening threat to the rest of the ECW locker room. CM Punk is in action up next against Hardcore Holly. CM Punk doesn't agree with Holly's aggression towards Kofi Kingston, calling out old Sparky Plug's jealousy of the new stars in ECW, leading to this match. CM Punk was building momentum, however a frustrated Bob Holly would take out not just the ref, but CM Punk as well with a couple of wicked chair shots, allowing Hardcore Holly to continue his streak of brutality. The main event of the evening has got the new Hardcore champion, Devon Dudley, defending his title against Rob Van Dam. This match of course was under Extreme Rules, and a brutal back and forth was underway. No expense was spared to damage their opponent in this bout. Devon elected to take this match on his own, as if he wanted to prove his capabilities as a singles competitor, though this may have been unwise as Rob Van Dam took control of the match, setting up for a 5-star frog splash and a victory, becoming the new Hardcore champion. After the match, Paul Heyman makes an appearance. He would congratulate RVD on his victory. However, he stated that this was a non-title contest, considering the Hardcore Championship had been disbanded earlier in the afternoon. Devon is in fact a champion, but he is the ECW television champion, which was not on the line here. RVD and the fans couldn't believe it. But Heyman was not done. The ECW general manager continued, announcing Raven's next challenge. He has handpicked 3 justified contenders, and given the success of Bubba Ray, Devon, and Spike Dudley, Paul Heyman sees it fit for Raven to defend his ECW championship in a fatal 4-way Extreme Rules match next week. Paul Heyman notes that this match would have taken place tonight if Raven were medically cleared to compete, and the Titantron would then reveal Raven, who has been attacked backstage. Another huge episode of ECW is in store, and to start the show we've got Rob Van Dam calling out the injustices of his title match last week and demanding a rematch. However, this rematch would not happen as RVD is slated to take on Rhino in the first match of the night. This encounter was highly physical, with both men focused on causing as much destruction to the other as possible. RVD would come away with the win, building more frustration on the part of Rhino. The next match has got Colin Delaney going one-on-one with the Great Khali. The youngster Delaney never had a chance as the Giant imposed his will en route to a victory. The main event of the evening has got Raven defending his ECW championship in an alleged fatal 4-way against all 3 of the Dudley brothers. Despite the free-for-all stipulation, this match showed a collective effort from the Dudley boys to dismantle the ECW champion. The Hardcore brothers took their turns brutalizing the champion, despite the resilience shown by Raven. A new champion was sure to be crowned, at least until the interference by Rob Van Dam and Sabu would give Raven a chance. An extreme skirmish had broken out, and the ref had officially lost control, as if he had any to begin with. In all of the commotion, Raven would hit Spike Dudley with an even flow DDT to somehow survive this steep challenge, ending the night still ECW champion, as the Dudleys looked on in disbelief. Paul Heyman opens the next show in the ring, calling out Raven for thinking he's escaped his wrath. Heyman announces that Raven will be defending his ECW championship this Sunday at Judgment Day, against a competitor that will be revealed in tonight's main event. The first match of the night has put two fierce competitors, who are desperately in search of a victory, against one another as Rhino and CM Punk clash in singles competition. After a hard-fought match, it would be Rhino to pick up the win while CM Punk collects another loss. The next match has got young Colin Delaney seemingly brought to slaughter as he is forced to face the monstrous duo of Big Daddy V and the Great Khali in a handicap match. The two giants would destroy Delaney until an appearance from the big ugly bastard we know and love would bring aid to the rookie. Snitsky was fired up, but the Giants would be forced to retreat. No rest for the ECW champion, as Raven is back in action, this time against Sabu in a highly physical encounter. While Sabu may not hold any direct resentment towards the champion, the high-flying maniac shows mercy on nobody, making for a tough situation Raven must fight out of. Sabu put up one hell of a fight, but the champion would ultimately stand tall in this contest. After the match, the Dudley Boys would once again come out and dismantle the champion, sending him through a table once more and revealing the title match for Judgment Day, Raven vs. Bubba Ray Dudley in a tables Iron Man match. Judgment Day has arrived, and ECW will be taking part with two title matches in the evening. The first featuring Devon Dudley defending his ECW television title. Rob Van Dam has been granted one final shot to not only take the television championship out of the Dudleys' grasp, but also avenge his fallen partner, Kid Cash. These two would present a bitter, physical match that highlighted the extreme nature of the ECW originals instinctively go to battle with, as carnage was spread across the ring and ring area. Spike Dudley would attempt to sabotage RVD. However, Marcus Corvon would come out and prevent any foul play. The distraction still proved costly as RVD's focus was hindered for just a moment, and Devon would be able to take advantage and wrap up his first real title defense. It's time for the ECW title match, which is sure to be monumental. Bubba Ray Dudley will step to the champion Raven in a match WWE ECW has never seen before, a table Iron Man match. As soon as the bell rang, these two went at one another with reckless abandon. The Dudleys' sheer disgust for what ECW originals have done to themselves, sacrificing their dignity for commercialized WWE glory, has driven them to the point of total annihilation of whoever crosses their path. The chaotic environment was welcoming to both of these guys, and one of the most destructive matches we've ever seen in a modern-day WWE ring took place. Every piece of furniture in the arena was in danger of being used as a weapon, and with ECW's grandest prize on the line, these men were willing to go through hell to be the face of the brand. This match shared momentum as Raven and Bubba Ray Dudley took turns throwing the other through tables, and as this match began to wind down, time was running out. Raven was down a point and desperately needed to make something happen, though that's when more Heyman shenanigans took place. Paul Heyman and Rhino made their way to the ring, and while Raven tried fighting them off, the numbers were too much, and eventually Raven was once again dismantled, which would put a nail in the coffin as time ran out, crowning a new ECW champion by the name of Bubba Ray Dudley. It's a new day in ECW as the new champion Bubba Ray Dudley makes his way to the ring. Bubba Ray makes an announcement that he will be awarding his half of the ECW Tag Team Championships to his brother Spike. This would make each member of the Dudley trio a champion. The first match of the night would feature Matt Striker going one-on-one with Colin Delaney. Given recent actions, Delaney is doubtful Striker has any intentions of an honorable match, but nonetheless, the bell rang and the match began. This was a surprisingly competitive contest, but not before long, Big Daddy V would make his appearance. Delaney's hesitance to continue was apparent until Snitsky's music hit. However, instead of Snitsky at the stage, a video is played of Khali taking Snitsky out, meaning Delaney is on his own in this one. Big Daddy V would lay out Colin Delaney, leaving Striker to pick up the pieces and the win in cowardly fashion. Hardcore Holly and Rhino are set for tag team action going up against the team of Kofi Kingston and CM Punk. This was an exciting contest between two teams that contrasted the other drastically. Hardcore Holly and Rhino's insufferable attitudes have bred into aggression that was made evident in this match. Kofi would hit a Trouble in Paradise on Rhino to end the match, which certainly won't improve the morale of the disgruntled veterans. Raven and Rob Van Dam are set to go toe-to-toe in a battle of extremists who were unsuccessful in their championship matches this past Sunday. With very little turnaround following brutal matches, they are once again in the ring, in an Extreme Rules match at that. However, this punishment would not go without compensation, as the winner would receive the next shot to challenge for the ECW Championship. Raven was determined to regain his title, while RVD has had his hands full with the Dudleys since their arrival. and taking the ECW championship from them would make for great revenge. These two held nothing back, and gave the fans another hard-fought contest to enjoy, and in the end, Raven would deliver an even flow DDT to secure his victory and another shot at the ECW championship. The next episode of ECW opens up with Raven requesting his ECW championship rematch given his victory last week. Paul Heyman, speaking on behalf of champion Bubba Ray Dudley, informs Raven his title match will come at One Night Stand in just a few weeks. Heyman also warns Raven to be careful of what he wishes for, and not to be too eager for this match, as a loss for Raven means he will be forced out of ECW, explaining the Dudleys' eagerness to crown a #1 contender last week. Former Hardcore champion Marcus Corvan is back in action as he is set to go up against the Boogeyman. Marcus Corvan has been deliberately kept out of action as per Paul Heyman and the Dudleys, but he's got the chance to make an impression that can't be ignored with a convincing victory. The alpha male does just that, and demands the attention of the general manager, to no avail. In a backstage segment, Spike Dudley and the Sandman are seen speaking backstage, with the Dudley Boy seemingly attempting to recruit the ECW original. Rob Van Dam is back for more singles competition, this time going against Elijah Burke. Rob Van Dam continues to be sent through the ringer week in and week out with no time to catch his breath. However, he does not seem to mind as Mr. Tuesday Night is focused on getting the Dudleys back for the issues they brought upon him as of late. RVD would secure the match with a frog splash and once again call out Devon Dudley, seeking his television title rematch. In the main event, the ECW tag team titles are on the line as Devon and Spike Dudley are challenged by ECW originals Sabu and the Sandman. The Dudleys have shown no allegiance to any of the ECW originals, and certainly show no discrimination when it comes to beating up on the members of the roster, who the Dudleys feel that everyone left has sold out and forgotten what the original ECW was all about. Sabu and the Sandman presented a tough opposition. Tensions were apparent as Spike Dudley reminded the Sandman of their conversation earlier in the night, which Sabu became suspicious of. There was a bit of disconnect between the ECW originals, and the Dudleys would be able to take advantage and secure the tag team championships, leaving some serious doubt between the longtime veterans. The next week begins by featuring a coalition of rookies looking to take down Matt Striker's monstrous duo. Ricky Ortiz, Braden Walker, and Idol Stevens have band together to avenge fellow rookie Colin Delaney in a 3-on-3 tag team match. Collie and Big Daddy V enjoyed the enthusiasm they were able to take away from the rookies, as the newcomers were clearly in over their heads, as they were severely outmatched and overpowered here. Matt Striker didn't even need to break a sweat before he would vulture the pinfall and end the match. A brawl between Kofi Kingston and Hardcore Holly was caught on camera as the two are clearly still at odds and unable to coexist in the locker room with one another. Hardcore Holly would walk away from this one on top, declaring Kofi Kingston will suffer the same fate as Al Snow last year. The Gold Standard is back in action here on ECW, as he seems to be one of the few guys who have not been caught up in all of the chaos surrounding the brand. A one-on-one match between he and the alpha male Marcus Corvan was a display of supreme athleticism and power. These two would put together an impressive performance. However, the match would be cut short when Rhino interfered, taking out Marcus Corvan and sending a message to the alpha male. Raven is in the ring, cutting a promo and speaking directly to the crowd. Raven acknowledges he may have his last match in ECW in just a few weeks, but encourages everyone not to believe in the facade the Dudleys have presented, citing their fake outrage and claiming they are going to show their true colors soon enough. The shift in atmosphere was palpable after this strange, prophetic statement. The main event of the night brings Sabu and the Sandman in extreme action. While no physical confrontation came from these two last week, Paul Heyman sees it fit to put these two in the ring together to navigate any potential issues. As this match went on, the Dudleys would spill into the ringside area, one by one, raising the tension in this match. The uncertainty of where the Sandman's allegiance lies created rifts between he and Sabu, and they were only heightened with the Dudleys' presence. This match would come to head when the Dudleys finally got involved, creating the avenue for Sandman to steal the victory, which he would in fact take advantage of, leaving the fans shocked at his decision. However, the Sandman turned the tables on the Dudleys as well, when he took out Devon with a kendo stick and aiding Sabu as the two originals left the ring area. The final episode of ECW before One Night Stand is set to get started with Matt Striker going one-on-one with Ricky Ortiz, who clearly is not 100% following the events of the week prior. In an act of confidence, Striker signals Collie and Big Daddy V to go to the back, an uncharacteristic move for the cowardly educator. Ricky Ortiz knew his time in ECW may come to an end soon if he didn't make an impact, so he refused to roll over here despite coming into this one with injuries. Without Stryker's backup present, Snitsky took his opportunity to interfere here, aiding Ricky Ortiz in putting down Matt Stryker before his cavalry could arrive. The next match of the night has Spike Dudley going one-on-one with Rob Van Dam. Spike Dudley seems significantly less confident in the ring tonight, as it seems he wasn't aware this match was in store. Rob Van Dam would win the match decisively, making notions around his waist in anticipation of a title match. After the match, Devon and Bubba Ray would catch up with Paul Heyman, questioning why Spike had to go out there and compete. The tension is clear and Heyman is nervous, regretfully informing Devon that he not only will be defending his title at One Night Stand against RVD on Sunday, but that's only if he comes out on top against the Sandman, which is tonight's main event. The Dudleys are rather angry with this notion, and Heyman claims he thought that's what they wanted, and that it's too late to change anything. This would bring forth the main event, which is in fact the Sandman's opportunity to take down Devon Dudley and take the television title. Devon made his way to the ring with a surprised look, baffled he's even set to compete tonight. This would not keep Devon from coming at the Sandman, as the ECW original turned down the Dudleys' offer to join their hostile takeover of the modern-day iteration of the brand they all helped become relevant. The Sandman was determined to come out on top here, and made this evident as he was on his game in this one. Determined he may be, but Devon Dudley was still able to pull out a victory, successfully defending the championship. We've arrived at ECW One Night Stand, one of 2 ECW exclusive pay-per-views that remain in our universe. We are set to get the night started with a tag team match featuring unlikely allies across the board, as resident Big Ugly Bastard Snitsky is teaming alongside rookie Colin Delaney in attempts to take down the massive and monstrous duo of Big Daddy V and the Great Khali, with no disqualifications. While the 2 giants assumed this was going to be an easy paycheck, Snitsky was determined to bring down the behemoths with the aid of Colin Delaney. And after trying to get involved, Matt Stryker even received a bit of backlash. Understandably, Colin Delaney wasn't able to administer much damage to the plus-sized adversaries, but Snitsky put his power and dominance on display. And with just enough backup from Delaney, these 2 would take advantage of a variety of weapons, and Snitsky would lead his team to a huge victory to open up the evening. A bitter battle is in store for the next match as Hardcore Holly plays host to an ambulance match at this event for the 2nd year in a row, this time against youngster Kofi Kingston, who has been getting under the skin of the disgruntled veteran ever since his debut earlier in the year. Despite Kofi's friendly and outgoing demeanor, he is focused in the ring, and we would even see a new, more extreme side of the Jamaican superstar come out here. However, Hardcore Holly wasn't going to lie down for Kofi or make things easy, as he displayed a level of aggression that defined what the new ECW is all about. These types of matches typically end up becoming all-out brawls, with little regard to implementing many grapples. Kofi instilled optimism for the next generation though, as he showed no quit or hesitancy in this match whatsoever. This was more of a fight than a wrestling match, but Kofi Kingston would eventually gain the upper hand and beat Hardcore Holly down enough to throw him in the ambulance, lock him in, and send him off, ending the match in victory for Kofi Kingston. Another grueling battle is in store in the next match, as Marcus Corvon and Rhino are ready to settle their issues, this time trapped within a steel cage. The bell rings, and immediately, Rhino and Marcus Corvon charge at each other like 2 bulls colliding in the center of the ring. The impact shakes the ring as they lock up, with neither man willing to give an inch. Corvon uses his raw power to keep Rhino down, but the man-beast fires right back with powerful offense, utilizing the environment encasing these 2. The aggression in this matchup never wavered, and the bad blood between these 2 is evident. Marcus Corvon blindsided Rhino, and this allowed him the space to get his ass out of that cage, securing a big victory after a physical match. Rob Van Dam is found attacked backstage ahead of his television title match with Devon Dudley. The footage was shown and Devon then proceeded to make his way to the ring, looking extremely confident, but would claim the innocence of he and his brothers, expressing a bit of disappointment for losing the opportunity to take out Rob Van Dam himself. CM Punk would then make his way to the ring, ready to fill the spot of RVD and eager to challenge Devon for the championship. Devon would accept, and the match commenced under Extreme Rules. It didn't take long for this contest to develop into a full-blown fight, filled with unforgiving shots and reckless intent. The Dudley Boys quickly sent a message upon their arrival by capturing all the championships available, and transitioning the Hardcore Championship to reintroduce the ECW Television Championship. CM Punk and Devon were determined to take the other down, and Devon's lack of hesitancy to compete in this match leads me to believe that maybe the Dudleys truly had no hand in the attack on Rob Van Dam. After a hard-fought battle, Devon would come out on top here with a successful championship defense. Another Extreme Rules match is set for the main event, as the stakes are the focus of this match opposed to the stipulation. Raven and Bubba Ray Dudley will not only be competing for the ECW Championship, but if Raven loses this match, he will be sent out of ECW. While the champion Bubba Ray Dudley's spot on the roster is not at stake here, losing the championship back to Raven would be considered a total failure of their efforts thus far. The match was intense, and these two held absolutely nothing back from one another. Two top-tier competitors with the intent to severely damage their opponent made for an exhilarating contest that could truly go either way. The champion, Bubba Ray Dudley, was ruthless with his offense and would never let up throughout the match, although the challenger Raven proved why he became champion in the first place and delivered a truly gutsy performance in the face of a real threat to his career. The refusal to give up from either competitor amplified the intensity of this encounter, making for an extremely volatile match that felt like it could end at any point. This was a grueling battle that, despite the visceral use of weapons, would actually end in a clean conclusion, after Bubba Ray Dudley would put Raven down for the final time, ending his tenure in ECW, while Bubba Ray continues his championship reign. As vital as Raven had become to the ECW brand, the machine that is the WWE stops for no one, as the next episode of ECW commenced without the former champion, with Marcus Corvan and Paul Heyman backstage. The alpha male has got a serious bone to pick with the attack on RVD on Sunday. However, Heyman claims the innocence of he and the Dudleys. The first match of the night features Colin Delaney getting his opportunity to get his hands on Matt Striker, with no other shenanigans at play, as any and all outside forces are banned from even coming to ringside. This would end up being one of the most competitive matches Matt Striker has had on his hands, considering his giants aren't with him, and Colin Delaney would actually get the pinfall victory here. Shelton Benjamin grabs the mic before his match, claiming that ECW has tried to sweep him under the rug and that he isn't going to stand for it any longer, promising to become a champion in ECW. His match would then commence following the arrival of his opponent, Rhino. These two would deliver an entertaining match, with the two talented performers focused on reclaiming some momentum. Shelton Benjamin seemed to have taken control until Rhino got himself disqualified after using a chair. The onslaught wouldn't stop there, as Rhino caused even more damage with more chair shots and an impactful gore. The final match of the night features the alpha male back in action as he's set to go head-to-head with Kofi Kingston in an Extreme Rules match. These stars were intentionally given very little turnaround from their performances at the pay-per-view to this punishing match, though that wasn't going to mean they were going to phone it in. With the chance to main event ECW, knowing what kind of opportunities could follow a breakout performance here, these two gave it everything they had. Corvan and Kingston were determined to put on an entertaining match, and that they did. Both men looked worse for wear after grueling bouts at Extreme Rules, and the alpha male was eventually able to secure a victory after defeating the weakened Kofi Kingston. The main event of the evening is a segment featuring the Dudleys, reveling in their success at One Night Stand. However, the celebratory mood would shift into tension, with the Dudleys turning their attention to Paul Heyman. The champions would deliver a shocking 3D to Heyman, severing their ties and brutally assaulting the man who brought them back. As Heyman lies motionless, the Dudleys announce that they are now in control of ECW. The next episode of ECW is coming straight out of Dudleyville, and chaos is ensured in a destructive match card. Kicking off the night is Sabu going up against CM Punk. There is quite the buzz surrounding RVD's attack 2 Sundays ago, and Sabu is someone who is pointing his finger directly at CM Punk as the culprit. Punk claims his innocence, but Sabu ain't buying it, and his rage has been unlocked. The ECW original would pick up a huge victory and an act of vengeance for his longtime friend, with a ton of questions stirring around what exactly happened. The next match brings Ricky Ortiz into the ring with the Great Khali. The angry giant that is Khali held nothing back and made Ricky Ortiz regret making his way into the ring. The main event has Marcus Corvan and Shelton Benjamin pair up to take on the team of Rhino and Elijah Burke. This was an intense contest featuring a handful of stars determined to stand out from the rest of the roster. This was an entertaining matchup, though it would end with Corvan and Benjamin picking up the win via DQ after the Dudleys made an appearance and took out the Alpha Male and the Gold Standard, asserting their dominance over the brand. To open the next week, Elijah Burke and Rhino have caught up with the ECW champion, expressing their frustrations with how last week's match ended. Defensively, Bubba Ray responds by booking Rhino and Burke into matches against their opponents from last week. CM Punk is still under fire for what happened to RVD at One Night Stand, as he's got to answer to another ECW original in the Sandman, though to no surprise, the Sandman's interest in civil discourse is non-existent. This was another very physical encounter that CM Punk found himself involved in. Punk had been going through quite a rough patch as of late, though he will come away with the victory here, though through less than ideal means, as the Sandman actually got himself disqualified after taking Punk out with a kendo stick in an act of vigilance for his friend RVD. Ricky Ortiz is seen speaking with Colin Delaney. Ortiz is heated after the beating he took last week at the hands of Khali, and would dig into Delaney for Snitsky not coming to his aid before storming off. The first of two matches made at the start of the show are set to get going as Elijah Burke is coming down to the ring to face Marcus Corvon in an extreme battle between familiar faces. These two always deliver a quality bout, and this match was no different. Marcus Corvon reinforced his claim as the alpha male with a victory here. The final match of the night consists of Shelton Benjamin and Rhino in a rematch from a few weeks ago, but this time there's no possibility of disqualification as they're set for more extreme action. There's no love lost between these two as both of these guys have been jockeying for position and a championship opportunity. Another high-intensity matchup was delivered to the fans, and Shelton Benjamin would come away with the victory. The Dudleys would once again make an appearance after the main event, taking out Benjamin and even Rhino as well, showing they have no loyalty to him. Marcus Corvon would make his way to the ring in an attempt to stop the Dudleys, however the numbers were too great to overcome, and Corvon would be sent through a table. The Dudley Boys start the show standing in the ring, addressing the crowd. They acknowledge the upcoming Night of Champions pay-per-view, though they announce ECW will not be participating this year, as they have no intention of associating themselves with the commercialized garbage that is the WWE main roster. They do announce that all three of the ECW titles will in fact be defended next week in their own extreme iteration of Night of Champions on ECW programming. The first match of the night will determine the number one contenders for the tag team titles, as Colin Delaney and Snitsky face Ricky Ortiz and Braden Walker. While the rookies have all been subject to attack by the Great Khali and Big Daddy V, there's a bit of tension directed towards Delaney and Snitsky. A chance for a golden opportunity hangs in the balance here, and both teams are willing to give it their all to succeed. The big ugly bastard known as Snitsky would display his power and ferocity, as he would take over this match and secure a victory for his team. The second match will determine who will face Devon Dudley for the ECW television title, as Kofi Kingston and CM Punk clash in a battle of up-and-coming stars. This was a tightly contested match, and it seemed that CM Punk had an answer for everything Kofi threw at him. Sabu would make an appearance at the stage, grabbing Punk's attention. Kofi would try to urge Punk to get his head back in the match, but to no avail. Eventually, Kofi waited long enough and hit Punk with a Trouble in Paradise, which gave him the win and the title shot next week. Bubba Ray Dudley agreed to put his ECW championship on the line against Rhino, Shelton Benjamin, and Elijah Burke next week, though not Marcus Corvon. Before our final match, we find out that if Marcus Corvon wants a title shot next week, he must go through the gauntlet tonight, beginning with Mike Knox making his return. Marcus Corvon would begin his test of will and endurance on a hot start and quickly dismantled Mike Knox. Up next came Hardcore Holly, someone Corvon is very familiar with. Hardcore Holly has been recovering from taking a loss at Extreme Rules, but looks fresh here as he began to deal damage to the alpha male. Despite Bob Holly's aggressiveness, Marcus Corvon was able to regain momentum and would deliver another huge pounce, advancing him further in this gauntlet. Up next, a huge obstacle. Big Daddy V slowly made his way to the ring and Corvon's mettle was coming into question. The alpha male was getting up slower and slower with each ground-shaking move delivered by Big Daddy V. Marcus Corvon was not going to quit and began chopping at the large man. Corvon had to get creative due to the sheer size of his opponent, but was somehow beginning to turn things around. Corvon knocked Big Daddy V off the apron, and the fight took place outside of the ring. Corvon's savvy allowed him to make it back in before time expired and eliminated Big Daddy V by countout, although it wasn't going to get any easier, as the Great Khali then made his way to the ring. In addition, it's then announced the gauntlet will continue under Extreme Rules. The odds were stacked incredibly high against the former hardcore champion, but he knew the end was near. Corvon did everything he could to put down the mammoth that is the Great Khali. Miraculously, Corvon began to shift the tides of the match, and began to take Khali off of his feet. Before true momentum could be established, the Dudley Boys once again reared their ugly heads into Corvan's business. Corvan tried to fight off the crew, but Bubba Ray would get a hold of Corvan and deliver a Bubba Bomb, making way for Khali to capitalize and end the gauntlet match, with Corvan receiving no title shot. The next show opens up with CM Punk speaking to the crowd and locker room alike. Punk once again claims his innocence in the Rob Van Dam attack, this time requesting RVD show his face and confirm that Punk had nothing to do with it. The first of 3 title matches are set to begin with tag team action, and of course, all of these matches will be held under Extreme Rules. Colin Delaney and Snitsky have a huge opportunity in front of them, as this strange pairing has gained footing in the tag team division. Delaney and Snitsky came out of the gate looking good as Snitsky took advantage of the size discrepancy between he and Spike Dudley, though the champs are no rookies and weren't going to go down easily. The Dudleys' persistence kept them in the match, as they astoundingly continued to get up after every attempt to put them down. As the match was winding down, Ricky Ortiz made his way to the ring area, distracting Snitsky and bringing him off the apron. This would prove costly, as Delaney would then eat some offense from the champions, including a Dudley Dog that would end the match and secure the tag team titles, leaving the challengers to pick up the pieces as frustrations are evident. Devon Dudley is a madman and was fully prepared for his double duty, as he has to go back to back and defend his television title against Kofi Kingston. Even while expending a great deal of energy to defend the tag team titles, Devon showed no shortage of effort and intention to remain champion. However, Kofi seemed ready for the spotlight, and the two confident competitors made for a highly entertaining match. Unfortunately for Devon, Kofi came correct and pulled off a huge upset that crowned a new television champion. As Shelton Benjamin, Elijah Burke, and Rhino prepare for an ECW championship match, Bubba Ray Dudley would then change the main event, no longer defending his title and no longer competing in the match at all, as this will now become a triple threat to determine the #1 contender for the ECW championship. While all 3 men delivered compelling performances, Shelton Benjamin would go on to earn the title match, but it was clear that he expended most of his energy in the triple threat. Bubba Ray Dudley would then come down to the ring, finally ready to defend his championship. The cunning champion would take advantage of the situation and vulture a successful title defense after beating down Shelton Benjamin, keeping his spot atop of the mountain secure. The next episode would be kicked off featuring the ECW return of Super Crazy. The high-flying luchador found himself locking up with the Boogeyman on his return. Super Crazy wowed the fans in attendance with some jaw-dropping maneuvers, but a critical mistake would allow the Boogeyman to hit a huge pump handle slam and sour Super Crazy's return with a loss. The ECW heavyweight champion Bubba Ray Dudley is here to compete in singles action, as he is set to go one-on-one with the Sandman. The Sandman turned down the opportunity to align with the Dudleys recently, and Bubba Ray is looking to make the ECW original regret his decision. A highly physical contest came from these two, and the Extreme Rules stipulation only heightened the destruction and pandemonium that would take place as this match unfolded. A dominant performance on the part of Bubba Ray Dudley would end the match in decisive fashion. A video plays, and Rob Van Dam is being filmed at an off-site location. RVD announces his return next week and will address just who attacked him. Devon Dudley challenges Kofi Kingston to a rematch for the television title, determined to reclaim his singles championship. However, Marcus Corvan would make an appearance to prevent any shenanigans from the Dudleys. Devon and Kofi would compete, and this would be an intense match, but the champion would stand tall and prove his reign is justified. In a massive moment, Kurt Angle would make his return to ECW, and he would announce that with Paul Heyman gone, he has been brought in by Vince McMahon to take control of ECW. The former Olympian would announce that his first act as general manager would be to grant an ECW title match to Marcus Corvan at SummerSlam in just over a week. The next week's show opens up with a title match, as new general manager Kurt Angle instructed Devon and Spike Dudley to once again defend their tag team titles against Snitsky and Colin Delaney. This was another physical match between these two teams, and the sheer power behind Snitsky made way for destruction. The effects of all of Devon's recent matches seem to have finally caught up with him here, as new tag team champions were crowned, and Snitsky and Colin Delaney were those calling themselves champion in a massive upset. CM Punk and Sabu are found brawling backstage. RVD is here at ECW to clarify his attacker, though Sabu isn't interested in waiting to hear what he already knows. Sabu pulverized Punk and sent him running. New ECW television champion Kofi Kingston is once again set to defend his newly won championship, this time against Hardcore Holly, returning to singles competition. Holly missed some time following One Night Stand. Hardcore Holly was aggressive and consistent with his offense. However, Kofi would remain persistent, landing some high-impact moves that would ultimately give him the edge, allowing him to retain his championship. The final match of the evening has Shelton Benjamin competing against Rhino in a steel cage match. Kurt Angle has assured Shelton Benjamin a prime spot on the card should he be able to put down the ECW veteran. Benjamin, keen on moving up the pecking order, is focused on coming through with another victory here. This made for a hellacious battle within the confines of the steel cage. Rhino, on the heels of multiple losses, is needing to turn things around to stay relevant here. While both of these men really need a victory, only one will come out on top, and that would be Rhino, who was able to get his ass out of that cage and pick up a victory, much to the shock of Shelton Benjamin. Rob Van Dam makes his return to ECW in a highly anticipated segment, as he intends on revealing his attacker. However, Rob Van Dam unfortunately doesn't know exactly who his attacker was. What he can confirm though is that his attacker was not CM Punk. RVD continues to vouch for Punk and defends his character. Rob Van Dam would denounce Sabu, thanking him for his vigilance and friendship, but claiming he was too quick to determine Punk as guilty. Rob Van Dam would challenge his attacker to come forth this Sunday at SummerSlam, requesting a match to settle the score as the show comes to an end. We have arrived at SummerSlam, which has always delivered compelling matches from the ECW brand in the past couple of years. Rob Van Dam has made his in-ring return following a brutal attack, and he'll be facing off against his assailant, which in a huge surprise was revealed to be RVD's former tag team partner, Kid Cash. Rob Van Dam was floored after the realization of betrayal had set in, but was quick to put his reservations aside as Kid Cash seemed eager not only to return to the ring, but bring more physical punishment upon Rob Van Dam. While RVD is a top-tier competitor, Kid Cash has been carrying a resentment that has grown exponentially and aims to take it out on his former partner, using his knowledge and familiarity of RVD's game to gain the upper hand. Kid Cash stayed on the neck of his former partner, but we know just how resilient Rob Van Dam is, and he wasn't going to back down, fighting back with an athletic onslaught only he can unleash. This would allow RVD to build enough momentum to hit a 5-star frog splash, spoiling Kid Cash's return by sending him home on the losing end of this bitter reunion. The ECW main event will feature the alpha male, Marcus Corvon, finally receiving a shot at Bubba Ray Dudley's ECW championship with no outside distractions, just mano a mano. Bubba Ray Dudley has enjoyed a firm grasp over the ECW brand since his return to the WWE earlier this year, though the return of Kurt Angle, who is acting exclusively in an administrative position, has threatened the control of the ECW champion, though his determination to be recognized as the leader of the Extreme brand has shown through since his return and is impossible to ignore in this matchup here. However, Marcus Corvon has been chomping at the bit for a legitimate shot at the champion without the external force of the Dudley brothers' presence. This match went back and forth and truly highlighted the growth of Marcus Corvon that has occurred over the years. Despite an aggressive presence from the alpha male, Bubba Ray Dudley withstood the onslaught and fired back with relentless physicality. While the champion displayed his might and made it clear his reign has been justified, Marcus Corvon would land the finishing blow, the pounce, keeping Bubba Ray Dudley down for the count, crowning a new ECW champion. An emotional celebration took place in the ring, and it was met by new general manager Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle shocked Corvon and the crowd when he announced Marcus Corvon would be making his first defense as champion immediately, against a hand-picked opponent by Kurt Angle, making his debut, Jack Swagger. This new competitor showed an intensity that the new champion could not match following an all-out performance just moments before. A gut-wrench powerbomb would put down Marcus Corvon, and Jack Swagger would win the ECW championship on his debut in shocking fashion. This sets up a massive conclusion to 2008. A huge episode of ECW is in store as fans try to decipher just what happened on Sunday. As new general manager Kurt Angle gets acclimated into his position, the ECW brand has undergone a major aesthetic shift
as the stage has followed suit with the rest of the WWE at this time. The show opens up with an exciting one-on-one competition as Super Crazy has found himself sharing the ring with Elijah Burke. Super Crazy is still looking for his first victory upon his return to ECW, and Elijah Burke is determined to regain some momentum with the victory here. While both competitors put on a good performance, it was Elijah Burke who came out on top. Rob Van Dam is back in ECW action as he is prepared to go one-on-one with an old friend, Sabu. Things are a little rocky between these two after RVD denounces Sabu's aggressive accusations towards CM Punk. This made for a heated contest between two guys who know one another very well. However, Rob Van Dam would secure a victory thanks to a 5-star frog splash, though Kid Cash would quickly make haste to the ring with intent to further damage RVD, until CM Punk came out to make the save and send Kid Cash retreating. A big main event is in store, as new ECW champion Jack Swagger is introduced to the ECW crowd in physical fashion against the Sandman, as he picks up his first victory on Tuesday Night Television. After Swagger dismantled the Sandman, Kurt Angle entered the ring to celebrate with his champion. Angle would proclaim that the ECW of old is dead, and this match was a symbol that Jack Swagger will bring the company to modern prosperity. Tag team champions Colin Delaney and Snitsky are in action, taking on a pair of rookies, Ricky Ortiz and Braden Walker. Ortiz and Walker held control of the match when Colin Delaney was in the ring, but once Snitsky became the legal man, he would take over and seal their victory with a pump handle slam. Another tag team match is in store, as RVD and CM Punk are tagging alongside one another to face the team of Sabu and Kid Cash. You could cut the tension with a knife in this bout, as friction amongst all four competitors leaves an extremely volatile situation. Rob Van Dam had finally confirmed CM Punk was not the man who attacked him, and after denouncing Sabu's vigilant actions, that relationship is on the rocks at the moment. Both teams put on a fine performance, and after a hard-fought battle, Kid Cash would be able to secure a pinfall victory over his former tag team partner. In an effort to establish his authority, Kurt Angle has scheduled the Dudley Boys to compete in a triple threat against one another, with an undisclosed incentive provided for the winner. While the three brothers certainly had no intentions of doing any kind of severe damage to one another, they weren't going to hold anything back as they were all well aware of the situation they were facing. Or so they thought. With the Extreme Rules stipulation in place, the Dudley brothers did what came natural to them, and went to battle. Bubba Ray Dudley would be the one to come out victorious, but little did the Dudleys know, they were actually fighting for survival in this match, as Kurt Angle stated that the losers of the match, Devon and Spike, are no longer contracted with the ECW, leaving Bubba Ray gutted and all alone. Jack Swagger highlights the evening with a display of the might and power of the new ECW champion. With the intentions to send a message, Kurt Angle and Jack Swagger have placed an open challenge to any ECW original that wants to try their hand at bringing down the new face of their company. Swagger's opponent would be Mikey Whipwreck, a former ECW champion. This is not the first time Whipwreck has walked into a match as the underdog and brought everything he could to the current ECW champion and showed no fear in the face of a powerhouse. Despite Whipwreck's admirable tenacity, Jack Swagger dominates this match and takes down the fan favorite, much to the delight of Kurt Angle. The next episode of ECW opens up seeing Kofi Kingston pick up a victory in another impressive performance with the TV title on the line. This time he is able to put down Elijah Burke in a competitive one-on-one match. Kid Cash makes his way to the ring, sporting an updated look and ready to finally add some reason behind betraying Rob Van Dam. Kid Cash would cite that while RVD was not the one who took him out months ago, RVD, who Kid Cash thought was a friend, never reached out or checked on Cash during his rehabilitation. Kid Cash claims he has a new friend to thank who has gotten him on the straight and narrow, and helped him clean up his act as well as make a return to the ring. Before Cash would end the segment, he promised to get proper revenge on Rob Van Dam. Colin Delaney is found attacked backstage with his assailant unclear. Marcus Corvon, Rhino, Shelton Benjamin, and Bubba Ray Dudley compete in an Extreme Rules Fatal 4-Way to determine the next #1 contender for the ECW Championship. This is a chaotic battle between four very formidable competitors, most of which being former ECW champions themselves. All four of these men have something to prove and the reason to come out on top beyond just the glory of being champion. While each competitor presented a justified case to be the #1 contender, there could only be one, and it would be the alpha male, Marcus Corvon, to come out on top and claim the rematch he never received in the first place. Jack Swagger is back in the main event and is once again posing an open challenge for any ECW alumni to step up and attempt to disprove his claim as the face of the modern-day ECW. This week's challenge would be answered by the ageless wonder, Jerry Lynn. Much like Mikey Whipwreck the week before, Jerry Lynn came out firing and quickly brought offense upon the ECW champion, using weapons and high-intensity offense. However, Jack Swagger would eventually overcome the offensive onslaught, taking control of the match and showing off his athleticism and technical prowess in the process. The champion would deliver a gut-wrench powerbomb, signaling the end and another successful title defense. A big episode of ECW is in store, and it's set to kick off with the debut of Dolph Ziggler. Ziggler had a bunch of nerves to work through here, as he had to not only handle the bright lights of the WWE stage, but also contend with the intimidation and mind games brought by his opponent, the Boogeyman. However, Ziggler would remain focused and pick up a victory on his debut. Following his victory, Kurt Angle appeared at the stage, looking very satisfied. Colin Delaney, upset about the beating he took last week, is seen verbally ripping into Snitsky backstage, showing some tension already between the new champions. Shelton Benjamin is in the ring, claiming that he deserves a championship opportunity. He would challenge Marcus Corvon to put his #1 contendership on the line in a ladder match. Corvon would accept, and the main event was set. Bubba Ray Dudley is found in the back, clearly furious with the situation he's found himself in now that his brothers have been removed from the brand thanks to Kurt Angle. Bubba Ray unleashes a bit of his rage on a member of the production crew, with the unfortunate staff member left laid out. In the next match, Kid Cash is in one-on-one competition against Super Crazy. These two wowed the fans with aerial maneuvers and extreme athleticism, and in the end, Kid Cash would pick up another victory, cementing his shift in attitude. The main event of the night features Marcus Corvon putting his earned #1 contendership on the line in a ladder match against the gold standard Shelton Benjamin. A big opportunity lies in front of Benjamin, as any singles accomplishments have eluded him during his time here in ECW. This became an intense matchup between two talented competitors, ready and willing to use any means necessary to secure their shot at Jack Swagger. This match went back and forth, with both guys making a case for themselves as to why they should be the #1 contender. Despite admirable performances on both ends, it would be Marcus Corvon to come out on top, solidifying the rematch he has yet to receive. Ricky Ortiz and Braden Walker are competing in tag team action to kick off the next week of ECW action. This time they're facing off against Super Crazy alongside another returnee to ECW, Psychosis. The Mexicools were looking good throughout this match and continued the trend of providing some impressive aerial feats. However, it would be the team of Ortiz and Walker to come away with the victory after a timely distraction from Idol Stevens. Hardcore Holly and the Boogeyman will take part in singles competition in the next match. While the Boogeyman poses a powerful arsenal of offense, Hardcore Holly's aggressiveness would propel him forward to victory. Though the win was not enough, as Hardcore Holly would continue an attack on the Boogeyman after the match, referring to the character as a freak. The Boogeyman would be seen collecting himself, portraying an angry demeanor, something we aren't used to seeing. The cameras catch an exchange between the Sandman and Kid Cash. The Sandman is fired up over Kid Cash's recent actions, though Cash quickly tries to make a case for himself. Surprisingly, the Sandman would not bring forth physical punishment, and the two would leave the area together. Jack Swagger is once again in the main event, and he continues his challenge of welcoming any ECW alumni to come out and challenge his reign. A multi-time ECW champion, Shane Douglas, came to answer the challenge, posing a legitimate threat despite being past his prime. The franchise kept this match close throughout, and there was a lingering feeling that Jack Swagger may not be able to put him away given his lack of experience. However, Jack Swagger ultimately puts down Douglas in another successful title defense. After the match, this celebration of Swagger and Angle would be interrupted, as Taz, who had been replaced on commentary since Kurt Angle took over, made an appearance at the stage, informing Kurt Angle that he has thrown his name out to Vince McMahon for a chance to run ECW. ECW will take part in Survivor Series, with Team Angle teaming against Team Taz, with the winning captain officially taking control of the brand. The show opens up with Bubba Ray Dudley speaking with Marcus Corvon in the ring. The Dudley brother doesn't mince his words. He's not going to apologize for what happened between the two in the past, but Bubba Ray Dudley is committed to getting revenge on Kurt Angle for firing his brothers. The scene is tense, but the two share a mutual respect. Kofi Kingston is back in action here on ECW, and is set to defend his television championship in a triple threat against Rhino and Hardcore Holly. Kofi Kingston certainly had the odds stacked against him here in this match, though he had absolutely no intention of backing down. An extreme skirmish took place, and the volatility of the match made for an opportunity any of these men could cash in on. However, the Boogeyman would insert himself into the fold and would actually take out Hardcore Holly. This would ultimately turn the match into a one-on-one encounter, as Kofi would take out Rhino and secure his championship. Rob Van Dam and Kid Cash will collide in a battle with hopes to finally put an end to their bitter rivalry. The Extreme Rules nature of this match brought out sheer intensity from both competitors. As Rob Van Dam was gaining the upper hand, the Sandman, who has seemingly changed over a new leaf, has come out to aid Kid Cash. RVD found his back against the wall and did his best to fight against the odds. CM Punk would make his way down to the ring, ready to neutralize the threat. However, a shocking twist would take place and CM Punk would reveal that he is aligned with Cash and Sandman. The trio began a beatdown on the face of ECW, leaving Rob Van Dam down in a bad way. CM Punk embraced the hailstorm of boos from the crowd as the three celebrated their handiwork. In the main event of the evening, Marcus Corvon is receiving his shot at Jack Swagger thanks to the administrative backing of Taz making this match actually happen. Jack Swagger is not walking in with the same level of confidence that we are used to seeing from the young champion, and I'm sure that's largely due to the fact that he knows Marcus Corvon has been waiting for this moment to get his revenge. Two powerful and athletic specimens collide in this one, and it was evident that despite their capabilities in the ring, the spirit of ECW is still alive and well as they took advantage of the extreme stipulations that are present. Marcus Corvon was building momentum, though Kurt Angle made an attempt to preserve Jack Swagger's status as champion. However, Taz was not going to allow that, getting himself physically involved and keeping Kurt Angle at bay. Dolph Ziggler would then even make his presence in the match, showing that he seemed to have aligned with Kurt Angle and Jack Swagger. But Bubba Ray Dudley would play equalizer here and remove Ziggler from the match, and it seemed that Marcus Corvon had an avenue for a fair shot to reclaim his championship. However, the unaccounted force of the world's strongest man, Mark Henry, making his ECW debut, would be the difference maker here, as Marcus Corvon would fall to the numbers, in turn allowing Jack Swagger to escape, still ECW champion. The next week of ECW action opens up with tag team champion Snitsky in an interesting situation, as partner Colin Delaney was not medically cleared to compete according to his personal physician. This leaves the Big Ugly Bastard set to defend the tag team championships in a handicap match, facing off against the up-and-coming duo of Ricky Ortiz and Braden Walker. While Walker and Ortiz are warming up to the level of the WWE and have been gaining some confidence, the power and might of Snitsky was on full display here, as he would actually overcome the odds and walk away from this match victorious, retaining the titles for he and Colin Delaney, who strangely was not present ringside. Hardcore Holly cuts a promo in the middle of the ring, expressing his anger with the Boogeyman for allegedly ruining his shot at the television title. Bob Holly would rant about the freak show invading ECW. Before he could continue, red lights would flood the arena. An eerie laughing track would play, causing Hardcore Holly to retreat and head to the back. CM Punk catches up with Kurt Angle, offering his services to aid Team Angle at Survivor Series. However, Kurt Angle would surprisingly turn this offer down, stating the two still have unfinished business, dating back to 2006 when Punk took the ECW Championship away from Kurt Angle. Dolph Ziggler is in the ring next, and this time he is facing Mikey Whipwreck, who is back and looking for some redemption after suffering a tough loss to Jack Swagger the last time we saw him. However, Dolph Ziggler would continue to impress as he would pick up another victory here. Bubba Ray Dudley would make his mark after the match, welcoming the ECW newcomer by slamming him through a table, cementing Bubba Ray's intentions of getting his revenge. Kurt Angle has his hands full this evening as he is approached by Shelton Benjamin. The two acknowledge their history together, and Shelton Benjamin is looking for another opportunity to get ahead. Kurt Angle then informs Shelton Benjamin if he wants any kind of shot, he needs to ensure Team Angle walks away victorious at Survivor Series, officially making the Gold Standard a member of his team for the Clash. In the main event, Mark Henry and ECW champion Jack Swagger are set to face off against Jerry Lynn and Shane Douglas in a heated contest
in which all rules are tossed out of the window. Jerry Lynn and Shane Douglas had the opportunity to redeem some of the ECW alumni that Jack Swagger and Kurt Angle intended to humiliate. The Extremists came out inspired, and had every intention of upsetting this powerful duo that have taken ECW by storm. But Jack Swagger and Mark Henry would display their might and overcome the Extreme alumni, sending a message that was impossible to ignore with a big victory here. Idol Stevens is in the ring set for one of his first tastes of singles competition. The untested rookie definitely came into this one confident, despite going up against an imposing force we know as the Big Ugly Bastard, Snitsky. Idol Stevens took a ton of damage during this match, but kept coming back for more and refused to stay down. However, momentum would shift as Colin Delaney attempted to aid his partner, sliding a chair into the ring and distracting the ref. This attempt would backfire when Idol Stevens was the one who wielded the chair, striking down Snitsky and making way for a massive upset. The rookie celebrated, while the tag team champions sorted out their miscommunications. Rob Van Dam makes an attempt to launch an attack on CM Punk. However, he's intercepted by the Sandman, a former friend. The Sandman and CM Punk get the upper hand on Rob Van Dam and leave him down, worse for wear. In the next match, the Boogeyman is slated for singles competition as he is set to go one-on-one with another talent making their return to ECW, this time Tajiri. The Boogeyman and Tajiri made for a balanced battle of contrasting offensive approaches that entertained the fans as soon as the bell rang. While both men put on a good performance, the Boogeyman would be the one to come away victorious. However, the highlight of the match would come after the bell, as Hardcore Holly put his stamp on this one, bringing down both competitors and standing tall as his issue with the Boogeyman continues to develop. Taz and Kurt Angle share an intense confrontation backstage, as a massive clash nears at Survivor Series. Kurt Angle reminds Taz that he couldn't save his career as a wrestler in the WWE, and that he will suffer the same underwhelming fate as he tries to save ECW. Bubba Ray Dudley has been granted a shot at Jack Swagger and the ECW Championship in a true test of the newcomer's grit and worthiness as champion, as Bubba Ray Dudley poses an amplified threat level opposed to the ECW alumni that has been resurfacing as of late. Since Spike and Devon Dudley had been exiled from ECW by general manager Kurt Angle, this had become personal for Bubba Ray, with his motivation extending beyond just the ECW Championship. Jack Swagger has been a dominant champion thus far in ECW and doesn't intend on slowing down anytime soon. However, the pressure of the high expectations of Kurt Angle can certainly be enough to throw Swagger off of his game. This match was full of intensity and brutal spots that will leave both participants reeling after this one. Despite the majority of recent main events being flooded by interference and outside intervention, this one was as clean as an Extreme Rules match can be. Both Jack Swagger and Bubba Ray Dudley looked impressive here, but it would be Jack Swagger to come out on top, putting the former ECW champion away with a powerful gut-wrench powerbomb. After the match, Kurt Angle would bestow a new look for the ECW Championship, shocking the loyal and traditional ECW fans with a brand new title belt, forever ingraining his legacy and impact on the brand, for better or for worse. We've arrived at Survivor Series and we're set to open up with ECW action, as Rob Van Dam is looking to make a big statement and gain a bit of payback against a familiar foe and longtime ECW original, the Sandman. While the Sandman claims to have cleaned up his act, turning a new leaf, he still possesses the deranged and violent demeanor he's become known for, making for an intense match against a fired up and highly motivated Rob Van Dam. This was an extremely physical encounter, and the Sandman dealt some serious damage to RVD. However, Rob Van Dam would persevere, withstanding the punishment and ultimately scoring a victory over the Sandman thanks to a 5-star frog splash. Following the victory, Rob Van Dam's celebration is cut short. CM Punk and Kid Cash don't let RVD enjoy the moment for even a second, and CM Punk announces this isn't over. Kid Cash then begins to make his way to the ring, bringing forth what seems to be another match. RVD didn't hesitate, and engaged in this lopsided battle immediately. This was another meeting between Cash and RVD, and once again, it didn't disappoint. Another highly entertaining bout ensued that featured incredible athletic maneuvers, amplified by the personal animosity held between these two. Kid Cash was relentless with his offense, continuing to challenge Rob Van Dam with a fast-paced arsenal of high-impact moves that left the former ECW and WWE champion with no room to breathe. That didn't deter Rob Van Dam from firing back, as he demonstrated that he is still an elite competitor as he fought against his adversary. RVD would ultimately overcome and put down Kid Cash in an admirable effort. This victory would come as a shock to CM Punk, who was witness to the dismantling of his new pupils. Angry and frustrated, CM Punk would make his way down to the ring, presenting one more challenge to Rob Van Dam. Once again, RVD showed no fear and welcomed the challenge of the straight edge superstar. However, the fatigue from 2 punishing matches was visibly taking its toll. CM Punk would hold control throughout the majority of this match, if you could call it that. But RVD wasn't going to give in, as he made his own offensive push. The threat of CM Punk coming up short here was real, but Punk held nothing back, ensuring RVD wasn't going to be able to overcome the odds again. A vicious go-to-sleep would spell the end for Rob Van Dam here in this match, putting up a great fight, but ultimately falling with the odds stacked incredibly high against him. CM Punk welcomed the boos from the crowd as he embraced his victory. It wouldn't be long before he would grab a microphone, confirming that he was the one behind the attack of Rob Van Dam, stating ECW has needed changes for a very long time, and that he's going to bring them, whether they are ready or not. The ECW main event of the evening is a massive clash, a mix of exciting young talent and established veterans, a 4-on-4 elimination match between 2 teams handpicked by Taz and Kurt Angle, set to go to war to determine who will take full administrative control of ECW. Team Taz is headlined by former ECW champions Marcus Corvan and Bubba Ray Dudley, television champion Kofi Kingston, and making a shocking return to the brand, another former ECW champion, Raven, willing to put his issues with Bubba Ray Dudley aside. Team Kurt Angle is loaded with talent as well, as ECW champion Jack Swagger will lead the team into this match, backed by the powerful force of Mark Henry, an exciting newcomer with a ton of potential Dolph Ziggler, and the gold standard Shelton Benjamin, hungry for opportunity. This match did not take long to get going, and by specific request of Kurt Angle, this match is not under Extreme Rules. However, that did not prevent a barrage of high-impact moves dealt in this one, as the action was fast-paced as soon as the bell rang, providing an entertaining display of the in-ring abilities of the ECW superstars of today. Mark Henry displayed his dominance when he eliminated Kofi Kingston, though Bubba Ray would promptly get some revenge with some mind-blowing feats of strength. The match continued, but the numbers would remain, showing the grit and determination of each man involved. Raven hit an even flow DDT, the first the crowd had seen in months, and Team Taz was taking control of the momentum. Shelton Benjamin would be the first eliminated on Team Angle after being counted out in a frustrating turn of events. Dolph Ziggler would meet his end in this match after taking a pounce from Marcus Corvan, and Team Angle was in trouble. Jack Swagger was taking a ton of punishment, but managed to tag in his colossal tag team partner, who would put an end to Raven's time in this match after the World's Strongest Slam. The match was winding down, and Marcus Corvan had found himself as the final member of his team left. The alpha male's back was against the wall, but he didn't shy away from his powerful opponents. Corvan laid in as much offense as he could before ultimately taking down Mark Henry, something the ECW fans have not yet seen during his time here on the brand. This left 2 familiar foes, the ECW champion Jack Swagger looking across the man he took it from. With all other outside factors exhausted, this may be one of the only times these 2 have crossed paths on a level playing field. Both men have already given one hell of an effort, but the match isn't over yet. Both stars showed why they should be the face of ECW, regardless of who is running the show. Jack Swagger has been a dominant ECW champion during his tenure, though the ferocity of Marcus Corvan goes unmatched in this contest, as Marcus Corvan would deliver a huge pounce, putting down the ECW champion for the 3 count, securing the victory for Team Taz in a massive moment. Marcus Corvan would celebrate his triumph, and the soon-to-be new general manager Taz stood at the stage, satisfied with the outcome. We aren't done with 2008 yet, as we head towards a huge December to Dismember pay-per-view. ECW once again begins a new era as Taz begins his official tenure as general manager following his team's victory at Survivor Series. His impact is felt immediately as ECW has been presented with their own stage, unique to the brand opposed to the generic set the rest of the WWE has taken up. The first match of the night consists of Hardcore Holly and the Boogeyman, competing an Extreme Rules match as the issues between the 2 continue to grow. These 2 continue to emphasize the aggression and physicality this version of ECW is able to maintain. Hardcore Holly's relentless approach has begun to bring out a more sinister side of the boogeyman, incorporating a brutal physicality alongside his already present mind games. However, Hardcore Holly is a seasoned veteran, and thanks to a little interference from Jamie Noble making his ECW debut, he comes away victorious, again one step ahead of the boogeyman. Rob Van Dam and Sabu are caught backstage, as RVD issues a direct apology to Sabu for not backing him up when Sabu claimed CM Punk was behind RVD being attacked months ago. This apology doesn't seem to have its intended effect, as Sabu walks away without saying a word. Television champion Kofi Kingston is set to headline the next match as he once again is ready to defend his championship, this time facing off against Dolph Ziggler. This was an exciting contest featuring two young talents, who are also allowed free reign on the weapons under and around the ring. Kofi Kingston has been a fighting champion, taking on any challenger. However, he would fall here, as Dolph Ziggler would crown himself the new television champion. Kurt Angle makes his way to the ring, furious with the outcome of the Survivor Series tag team match. Kurt Angle claims he is still the general manager of ECW, as Jack Swagger's pinfall was not legal or valid, pointing out that Swagger's foot was beneath the ropes, nullifying the outcome of the match. Taz would interrupt, standing his ground and defending his position. Angle would leave the ring, adamant he is correct. Survivor Series featured the return of former ECW champion Raven, who received a warm welcome from the ECW crowd and looked good in his return. He finds himself in the main event of the evening as he is set to take on the monstrous Mark Henry, who seems to be in an even worse mood than usual, given that he was pinned for the first time since coming to the brand last Sunday. These two didn't hold anything back, and an intense skirmish between two formidable foes would send the crowd home happy. The match would go back and forth, but ultimately, the world's strongest man would put down Raven, souring his return to singles competition in the land of extreme. After the match, Mark Henry would look to further the carnage and exercise some of his fury from being pinned for the first time at Survivor Series, though his attempt would be interrupted by Bubba Ray Dudley, who despite his past issues with Raven, ensured no further damage could be done. The next episode of ECW kicks off as CM Punk returns to in-ring action, set to face off against ECW alumni Tajiri. These two put on an entertaining match that would ultimately end with CM Punk delivering a go-to-sleep for the win. After the match, CM Punk calls for Rob Van Dam to find two partners next week, setting up a big 3-on-3 tag team match. Jamie Noble is ecstatic over his new partnership with Hardcore Holly, but the grizzled veteran makes it clear he's not going to let Noble stick around if he holds him back at all. Kurt Angle makes his way to the ring, alongside new television champion Dolph Ziggler. The two celebrated the recent championship triumph, stating this is a sign of things to come as Kurt Angle anticipates taking sole possession of the general manager position. However, this celebration was short-lived, as Taz once again interrupts Angle, stating he's got a challenge for the new champion. Ziggler was confident and prepared for a rematch with Kofi Kingston, though he was shocked to find his opponent was actually Masato Tanaka. Ziggler was thrown off his game, allowing for a hot start from the physical and unforgiving ECW alumni. Ziggler would eventually regain his footing in this match, taking full advantage of the weapons that were available. However, this surge of offense would not fluster Tanaka, who would actually come away with a surprising victory as the television title changed hands once more. Tag team action fills the main event slot for the evening, as Bubba Ray Dudley and Raven are surprisingly teaming up to take on Mark Henry and ECW champion Jack Swagger. Raven and Bubba Ray Dudley share a loaded past, most recently featuring Raven being kicked out of the brand at the hands of the Dudley brother. These two seem to share a common enemy, bringing these two together in an unlikely pairing. However, they've got their hands full with the massive force that is Mark Henry alongside with the ECW champion, who arguably has yet to suffer a legitimate loss since his arrival. The two teams clashed and made for a physical battle, blending the modern-day ECW with its past. While Raven and Bubba Ray seemed to be able to cooperate with the other for the majority of the match, an untimely miscommunication would cost this team of former ECW champions, allowing Swagger and Mark Henry to come away with a hard-fought victory. Tensions were swirling between Bubba Ray and Raven, as intentions may not matter in this mix-up. Another week of extreme action is set to begin, and this edition opens with Colin Delaney and Snitsky taking part in tag team action, this week taking on the team of Hardcore Holly and Jamie Noble. In what has become a bit of a pattern, Colin Delaney would struggle, and Snitsky would turn the tides of the match with his presence. However, the tag team champions would actually lose this non-title bout after Hardcore Holly was able to score a pinfall victory over Colin Delaney, while Jamie Noble took a sacrificial pump handle slam from Snitsky ringside. Following the match, red lights would return, flooding the arena. Hardcore Holly showed no fear, inviting the Boogeyman to make his way out, which the Boogeyman would oblige. However, the red lights would then become bright and temporarily blinding. As Hardcore Holly regained his vision, he would realize that the Boogeyman is not alone, and with him, an imposing and slightly familiar force of a man we call Mordecai. Holly would hightail it away from the ring, and the Boogeyman and Mordecai would punish Jamie Noble, leaving Holly's ally down in a bad way. Rob Van Dam, in search of a couple tag team partners, is once again backstage, requesting Sabu accompany him in a big tag team match tonight. Sabu would once again offer nothing but silence, leaving RVD with no reason to believe he's going to aid him this evening. Marcus Corvon is caught up with Taz backstage, concerned that pinning Jack Swagger at Survivor Series will go unaccommodated after Kurt Angle's antics. Taz would ensure that regardless of who is in charge of ECW, Marcus Corvon will in fact have a championship opportunity locked in at December to Dismember. Idol Stevens is back in action, accompanied by Braden Walker and Ricky Ortiz. This time he is tasked with taking on Tajiri, who has yet to pick up a victory since making his return to the brand. Unfortunately, this losing streak will continue as Idol Stevens manages to secure a pinfall victory as the young superstar continues to build momentum. A scheduled 6-man tag team match is up next and ready to main event the evening. CM Punk, Kid Cash, and the Sandman have their sights set on dismantling Rob Van Dam and whoever has decided to partner alongside him. RVD made his way to the ring with the same fearless demeanor fans have grown accustomed to, and his first partner is revealed to be Shane Douglas, former ECW champion. RVD seemed adamant Sabu would show, but he never did, leaving this match as a 2-on-3 endeavor. This didn't keep RVD from bringing the fight to CM Punk and his pupils, unleashing an aggressive arsenal of offense. Punk and company would begin to take control of the match, looking to wrap things up. However, Marcus Corvon would come in to aid RVD and even up the numbers. The alpha male was dominant here, delivering high-impact offense and punishing Punk and his pupils. CM Punk's plan had been turned upside down, and a 5-star frog splash would secure the match for Rob Van Dam. However, the ECW champion Jack Swagger then made his presence, instantly drawing the attention of Marcus Corvon. The two would begin to brawl, spilling into the back away from the camera crew. In the ring, Rob Van Dam and Shane Douglas were confused but soaked in the victory, at least until Shane Douglas revealed his true colors, attacking Rob Van Dam, aligning with Punk in a shocking turn of events as the night came to an end. A tag team rematch will get this week of ECW action started as champions Colin Delaney and Snitsky are set to defend their tag team championships against a duo that defeated them last week, Hardcore Holly and Jamie Noble. The momentum seemed to have carried over from their last encounter, as Holly and Noble held control throughout the match. Victory seemed to be within their grasp, until more mind games from the Boogeyman would lure Holly away from the ring, allowing Snitsky to quickly turn the tides of the match, pinning Jamie Noble to retain their titles. Taz is found backstage speaking to Jack Swagger, directing that Swagger turn in his championship belt, bringing back the old design. Swagger initially refuses, until Taz threatens to strip Swagger of the title if he doesn't comply. Swagger was reluctant, but followed orders. Then, Bubba Ray Dudley and Raven share a strange and tense encounter, which brings up the question if their past issues have truly been rectified. We've got more tag team action here as new ECW television champion Masato Tanaka will team alongside Kofi Kingston to take on former champion Dolph Ziggler and Shelton Benjamin. The television title scene has all of a sudden become extremely cramped following a couple of abrupt and unexpected title changes. Not only is Dolph Ziggler expecting a rematch, Kofi Kingston never received a rematch to begin with either. Add another dangerous competitor in Shelton Benjamin, and anything could happen. This was an entertaining match, and in the end, it would be Kofi and Tanaka to come away victorious, leaving a major question mark for the television title division. Matt Striker makes his return to ECW, surrounded by the Great Khali and Big Daddy V. Striker is also toting the Cruiserweight Championship after defeating Hornswoggle over on SmackDown. Striker cuts a promo, demanding fans acknowledge him as Cruiserweight Champion, teasing that the Cruiserweight division will be getting extreme in 2009. So make sure to get the video a like to get 2009 out faster. Cameras would catch up with Hardcore Holly, who was scolding Jamie Noble for his failures earlier in the night. Kurt Angle catches up with Jack Swagger backstage. Upon realizing the different belt, Angle becomes furious and demands an explanation. Swagger claims he did what he had to do to stay champion, though this does not ease any of Angle's anger. RVD vs Shane Douglas takes our main event slot this evening, as fans and members of the locker room alike are shocked by Douglas's actions, aligning with CM Punk and his pupils while turning his back on Rob Van Dam and essentially the brand. The former ECW champion has followed suit by updating his look, re-embracing his academic background, and reinforcing the influence CM Punk's clean lifestyle has had over those who follow him. The fans were treated to a competitive match, and these two would go to battle, ultimately ending with a victory for Rob Van Dam. After the match, Punk and his pupils take their frustrations out by launching an attack on RVD. Sabu appears at the stage, which brings a momentary pause, though he would leave RVD to the wolves, allowing Punk and his pupils to stand tall to end the show. The final show of the year opens to the scene of Kurt Angle and Taz in a brawl backstage. This intense encounter would set the stage for their clash on Sunday, where the winner will take sole control of the brand. Paul and Delaney and Snitsky are seen backstage, discussing the recent frustrations between the two. They're interrupted by Idol Stevens, who comes to the defense of Delaney and begins to point fingers at Snitsky, claiming he was nowhere to be seen when Delaney was attacked last month. The first scheduled match of the evening has got 6-man tag team action on deck. Masato Tanaka, Kofi Kingston, and Shelton Benjamin will be banding together to face Dolph Ziggler, Rhino, and Elijah Burke. This is a clash of contestants who will be competing in the annual Elimination Chamber match at December to Dismember, this time for the television title. The intensity was high, and the fans were treated to a back-and-forth match from these up-and-coming stars. In an exciting contest, it would be the team of Shelton Benjamin, Kofi Kingston, and Masato Tanaka to secure the momentum heading into Sunday thanks to the gold standard wrapping things up. Tensions had only risen in this match as we approach a huge title defense in just a matter of days. Another tag team match is in store as Hardcore Holly and Jamie Noble are set to compete against the Boogeyman and apparent backup Mordecai. Holly wasn't shy to let his frustration show after Jamie Noble ate a pin in their last tag team title match. These frustrations are still present, as Hardcore Holly would actually leave Jamie Noble high and dry, alone to take a beating from their opponents. As Boogeyman and Mordecai handled business, Hardcore Holly claimed that this isn't over. Bubba Ray Dudley is going head-to-head against newcomer Idol Stevens in an Extreme Rules match. The former ECW champion was having his way with Stevens, and even the lingering presence of Ricky Ortiz and Braden Walker couldn't slow Bubba Ray down. However, an interference from Raven would turn this match upside down, legally allowing Idol Stevens to steal a victory here. Raven would go on to dismantle Bubba Ray, citing Bubba Ray hasn't changed a bit and is still just as despicable as he was when he was in a position of power. Mark Henry has got his chance to get his hands on Marcus Corvan, the man who handed Henry his first pinfall here on ECW. This was a battle between two powerful beings, presenting a huge amount of strength and destructive capabilities. Marcus Corvan was no stranger to facing steep odds, and intended on coming through again here. While a distraction from Jack Swagger would turn the tides of the match in Henry's favor, the alpha male refused to waver. The number one contender would continue to fight, eventually pulling through and landing a pounce that would once again put down the world's strongest man. Jack Swagger wasn't going to let any kind of celebration ensue, as he would launch an attack on his challenger. However, Corvan would stand tall again, making a huge statement ahead of their upcoming title match. The final ECW events of the year has some major implications and bitter rivalries set to be settled, and the tone of intensity is set right away as a last man standing match between Raven and Bubba Ray Dudley kicks off the night. These two highlighted the middle of the year with a personal rivalry that also revolved around the ECW Championship. Bubba Ray would ultimately use his power to get Raven removed from the company. A few months later, Raven would return, and the former ECW champion doesn't believe in Bubba Ray's sudden willingness to let bygones be bygones. This reignited a feud between these two, and their familiarity left no boundaries. Raven wasn't going to go down easily, and this match would eventually spill out of the ring area, taking this fight up the ramp and into the backstage area. The brutality of this match would only amplify as things went to the back. Bubba Ray Dudley had to resort to vicious measures to put Raven down and secure the match, leaving many in shock, but crowning a decisive victor. More destruction is set to ensue as the tradition of an Elimination Chamber match at December to Dismember continues in our universe. This time it will be used to determine the rightful holder of the television championship. New champion Masato Tanaka must put his title on the line against a collection of formidable competitors. Dolph Ziggler has been intent on recapturing his first championship here in WWE, while also trying to keep Kofi Kingston at bay, someone who never received a fair chance to reclaim his title. Shelton Benjamin, Elijah Burke, and Rhino add a layer of volatility that will truly test whoever walks away victorious. The brutality of this match was on full display here, pushing each competitor to their limits. As the match went on, competitors would fall. The elimination of Masato Tanaka signified a new champion would be crowned, and as the match went on, it eventually came down to former champion Kofi Kingston and the gold standard Shelton Benjamin. The two would duke it out until one final competitor was left standing, and that would be Shelton Benjamin, calling himself the new television champion to bring in the new year, after a long journey to claim championship gold here in ECW. The saga behind who took out the face of the brand, Rob Van Dam, many months ago has engulfed ECW for months. A huge, brand-wide whodunit had taken place to determine the culprit. After many twists and turns, it was revealed that CM Punk was the one behind the attack from the beginning, despite sending smoke signals that he was an ally to RVD. After Punk's true nature was exposed, resolution was still needed. The resilient and fearless Rob Van Dam continued to scratch and claw to get his hands on CM Punk, despite the heavy number disadvantage with Punk's new stable backing him up. However, this clash is mano a mano, the chance to see who is the better of the two here in the ring. CM Punk may have shifted his attitude from what made him a popular fan favorite, but his results since taking matters in his own hands have raised his stock that once fell to concerningly low levels. The lifeblood of ECW gave it everything he had in this match, turning the tides and gaining momentum. However, the presence of Punk's pupils would bring distraction and interfere with RVD's attempt to take down his adversary. While Punk's cronies were consistent, RVD was able to navigate the added challenge they presented. Eventually, Sabu would make his way down to the ring, to a huge roar of the crowd, surprisingly neutralizing the forces that aimed to bring down Rob Van Dam. The match had reached its apex, and this crucial one-on-one encounter would be tarnished after Sabu lent a steel chair to CM Punk. Taking advantage of the opening, CM Punk unleashed a flurry of brutal chair shots to RVD. A go-to-sleep would seal the victory, as Sabu looked on at the destruction of a close friend that he once came to the defense of. CM Punk soaked in the victory and the boos that came from the crowd. The next match, Taz vs. Kurt Angle, is a huge clash that is carrying some major weight. After a shaky conclusion at Survivor Series, this match will truly determine who will take control of the Extreme brand as its general manager. The fans haven't seen either of these two in the ring for quite some time now, though that's not to say they haven't been involved in physical altercations leading up to this event. There's a lot of history between these two, stemming from Taz's debut in the WWE. Kurt Angle is intent on not only regaining control of ECW, but proving that Taz is an inadequate in-ring competitor. However, anyone familiar with Taz knows that he is a formidable and dangerous individual. Taz may be past the prime of his in-ring career, but his toughness is still as present as ever. This was an extremely physical match, full of a variety of suplexes. Kurt Angle was adamant that this match contained no additional stipulations, playing to his strengths as a technical wrestler, assuming Taz would not be able to hang with the Olympic gold medalist. This did not go according to Angle's plan though, as the former ECW champion and commentator proved his technical prowess can allow him to hang with the best of them. Angle began to become frustrated after a rope break broke up an ankle lock and aimed to unleash more offense. Taz once again foiled these plans, delivering his own arsenal of offense that would keep Angle on his heels. After a long battle, Taz would gain crucial positioning to lock in the Taz mission, eventually forcing Kurt Angle to submit. This victory would cement Taz as the leader of the brand going into a big year, though that is certainly not going to come without controversy in some form. The main event of the biggest ECW event of the year features Jack Swagger defending his ECW championship against a hungry challenger in Marcus Corvon. Jack Swagger made an immediate impact on the brand as he became ECW champion in his debut. This surge of momentum would carry him through a dominant streak over most of the ECW brand, justifying his spot at the top despite a lack of tenure. Swagger's success behind Kurt Angle's support and tutelage allowed him to gain a stranglehold of ECW, forming powerful alliances and delivering impressive performances. The challenger, Marcus Corvon, has been on a path of destruction since he was screwed out of his ECW championship just moments after capturing the title. While Swagger has been doing his best to evade the alpha male, Corvon has made an impact that cannot be ignored, creating an opportunity for him to redeem himself and finally become ECW champion after so many trials and tribulations. While the fairy tale ending for Corvon sounds nice, it is nowhere near guaranteed, given Jack Swagger's talent and ability. While the champion may not have come in this match carrying a ton of momentum, he was able to silence the crowd when he managed to take control, giving the fans a common scene that they've seen many times during this championship reign. While Swagger's physicality and hard-hitting athleticism has brought him many victories thus far, the alpha male has proven that he is a top-tier competitor, and taking him down requires much more than the average man. Swagger tried putting the challenger down with everything at his disposal, but Corvon's determination was unwavering, and would eventually keep the champion down for the 3 count, finally crowning the alpha male as champion with no shenanigans to follow. This was a massive victory for Marcus Corvon, though this is just the beginning of his championship journey. That does it for 2008. Make sure to like the video to get 2009 made as soon as possible. Huge shout out to Patreon members and those subscribed to the Real 1 tier. You guys are awesome. Thank you for watching, and we'll see ya for ChatGPT's Universe mode continuing soon. Take it easy.